Hannah Noel. I am from Williams 2008. I'm an associate professor at Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, where I teach communications and ethnic studies.
What are some things that brought you to Williams in the first place, and where did you come from?
I'm actually local. I grew up in Florida, Massachusetts. So I grew up about 25 minutes from Williams. What motivated me to come to Williams was the high quality education and the professors. And so I applied to a bunch of different schools, but Williams really stood out in terms of the quality education I could receive.
So you must really love the area because you grew up here, you went to Williams, and now you work in the area.
The academic job market kind of dictates when you're a professor where you end up going. Before I was at MCLA, which I love, I was at Miami University of Ohio. So I did like coming back here from Miami, but yeah, I feel like it was almost coming full circle coming back to the area.
How did you get interested in your academic department now?
Yeah, so my major at Williams was American Studies with a concentration in Latino Studies. And really, I have to give props to Professors Carmen Whalen, Merida Rua, who recently left, and especially Maria Elena Cepeda. They were amazing mentors and continue to be amazing mentors. My second publication was in an edited anthology that Dr. Cepeda edited. She was on my dissertation committee, and I went to the same graduate school that Merida Rua and Maria Elena Cepeda went to. So my mentors at Williams, walking into their classroom, helped spark a passion in terms of my career, one that I couldn't have foreshadowed beforehand, given where I grew up, and they've just been an absolute blessing.
Mm-hmm. And what is one of your favorite classes at Williams?
One of my favorite classes at Williams was my honors thesis, I have to say. I guess that's not, it took a lot to get it to that point, but the Latino Studies department was amazing. They were able to get me a grant to do my own independent research during winter study with the Guatemalan Mayan community in Indiantown, Florida. So I was also among the first cohort of Latino Studies honors theses, and my honors thesis, I developed it since my sophomore year. I worked on different chapters. It ended up being like over 130 pages, which is similar to like a master's thesis. So it was really, I got tremendous support from Latino Studies program. And so that ended up being like the culmination of my experience at Williams, and above and beyond was an amazing, amazing opportunity.
Do you ever go back to Williams and just sort of like hang out? Like, how does your life now interact with Williams College because you're so near?
So I've had the opportunity to have really wonderful colleagues who have been Bolin Fellows. So for instance, Dr. Lloyd Barba, who is now at Amherst, was there. So, and then also Dr. Kevin Escudero, who's now a professor at Brown. They're both colleagues that I've collaborated with in the past. So my interactions with Williams today is really through colleagues that I work with who had institutional affiliations that kind of kept me coming back. And I also, when I was finishing my dissertation at the University of Michigan, Maria Elena Cepeda in Latino Studies, she helped me be able to have access to the library at Williams, and I actually finished my dissertation my last semester of graduate school at Williams, and I finished it with Dr. Escudero, who's a Boylan Fellow at that time. We were working on similar topics.
So on the topic of Williams, if Williams was an ice cream flavor, which one do you think it would be?
I mean, it would be Purple Cow, right? Like.
This is the shortest answer we've ever gotten. It's Purple Cow.
Yeah, has to be.
If you were an ice cream flavor, which one would you be?
I would say birthday cake with extra sprinkles.
Why?
Because I'm super colorful and very vibrant. Plus, it's my favorite flavor.
Interesting. All good reasons. Do you have any advice for Williams students trying to get into academia now? They're now, you were in their shoes at one point. What do you wish you knew when you were back there?
I wish I knew how hard the job market is. I didn't have any idea. I don't come from a family of academics. And I would say your professors at Williams are exemplary. The Latino Studies program went above and beyond for me, giving me guidance every part of the way, books. Dr. Rua gave me, she literally gave me the furnishings for my first apartment. I'm not saying that your professors will necessarily do that, but if it weren't for my relationship with the faculty in Latino Studies, I wouldn't have any idea what I was doing. I wouldn't have had any idea what a PhD program was. So really thinking about those connections and in the ways in which you can learn a lot from your professors and listen to what they have to say, but also realize that like you're coming from a wonderful institution. Nevertheless, the academic job market is extremely challenging. And just to be realistic about that, like I have wonderful friends who are not able to get academic jobs, but have chosen other jobs outside of academia. So I think that just kind of that knowledge that the job market's challenging, even if you're superior, just to keep that in mind.
Is there any exciting research you're working on now?
Yeah, so my first book is forthcoming in fall of 2021, and it's coming through the Ohio University Press in their Race and Media Culture series, and it's edited by Camila Fojas and Mary Beltran. These are two scholars who focus on mixed race representations as well as Latino representations. And my book is tentatively titled Deflective Whiteness, the Co-optation of Black and Latinx Identity Politics. So it's a work in critical whiteness studies that looks at the ways in which whiteness uses and co-opts the identity politics and social movements of historically marginalized communities in perpetuating the racial project of whiteness. So that makes sense.
Interesting. It does. Is there a lot of work being published now in this field?
So it's critical whiteness studies began during like the multicultural movement of the 1990s. There is an upswing of scholarship that's being published today in critical ethnic studies under critical whiteness studies. So for example, my colleague Lee Bibo at the University of Arizona published a book, Whiteness on the Border, mapping the racial imagination in brown and white. So this looks at the ways in which whiteness constructs itself against the Mexican other. So my work is innovative in that I'm interested in the ways both liberal and conservative media outlets across different types of media construct ideologies about race through the appropriation and misrepresentation of historically marginalized groups. My book itself is interested in the ways in which historically marginalized communities are used as a prop within white discourse to perpetuate white supremacy. So
what's an example of that?
I can give you a few different examples. One chapter of my book, I look at the Blue Lives Matter movement and the way the Blue Lives Matter movement takes the social movement frame of Black Lives Matter and uses it in a strategic way through social media discourse to push this idea that whites are being oppressed and that cops are being oppressed, right? And I look at and I code a variety of different tweets from a social media group called Blue Lives Matter to talk about the ways in which it's purported social frameworks of like how the organization works and its mission statement of the organization really is not supported by the rhetoric it pushes. Another chapter of my book that I look at is I start off with the controversy around like Lil Nas X being pushed off the country charts. And I do a rhetorical analysis of bro country music and country rap. So I give a history of country rap and the hybridization of country music as a musical genre. And I'm interested in the ways in which this idea of country as a term is used as a shorthand for whiteness and how this is represented in both fan communities online as well as lyrics. And I also have different chapters on looking at like, I have one chapter on looking at an advertising campaign, a liberal corporation that takes and represents the social organizing efforts of its largely Guatemalan Mayan workforce and uses this to sell t-shirts and yet doesn't represent and doesn't kind of fully contend with the ways in which their workers are exploited on the shop floor. Right, so there is actual exploitation in the factory, but yet they co-opt these politics of the workers to sell t-shirts. And I also have a chapter on NPR where I also look at the strategic framing of Guatemalan Mayans there. And I end with a discussion of performative allyship and what that means today in our, especially in the era of COVID, where our highly mediated age is ever more apparent and palpable. Because I mean, look at us right now. I could have come to Williams to do this interview, but I can't. So the breadth of the book is really interested in the ways in which, in the multitude of ways of which representations of historically marginalized groups are strategically used by white allied communities to maintain and sustain historically white social and media spaces.
I wish we could dive in more, but unfortunately time is a constraint, but that does sound really interesting. And what is the book called again?
It's tentatively called Deflective Whiteness, the Co-optation of Black and Latinx Identity Politics.
Coming out fall 2021. Are there any interesting books you're reading now?
So I'm going to give a plug to my friend, my colleague, Dr. Escudero, has a book, Organizing Well Undocumented, and it's from NYU Press, and it is assigned in my senior capstone, Media and Immigration. I'm also reading White Too Long, which is the history of white supremacy in American Christianity. So one is for my research and one is for my class.
What is your favorite class to teach?
I created a minor in ethnic studies at MCLA, and I advise all the students and I teach the intro class. That's my favorite. I love that. I also love the senior sem I get to teach. I would say anything within ethnic studies that I get to teach is my favorite.
Any unique talents or abilities that no one really knows that you have?
I'm really good at drywall repair. I repaired all of the drywall by myself in my home, and I did, I think, a pretty good job.
That is really awesome. Very useful too. What is the first thing you plan on doing when we get back to normal?
I'm gonna get married, I think. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Awesome. That is definitely something to look forward to. That's awesome. Wow. So just to close off, what would your bumper sticker say?
In terms of what? Like, just in general?
Just like if you had to make a bumper sticker and stick it on the back of your car, what would it say?
I love Pomeranians.
Interesting. So you might have to explain to me what that is.
It's a dog. They're fluffy, and when I was in grad school, there was a dog that was a Pomeranian that was going to get put down. He was 10 years old because no one wanted him, and I adopted him. And then I adopted another one because there was a puppy mill that got raided, and they were just trying to put them places. So I've had 2 Pomeranians now, just randomly,
What?
and they are my family.
I've never known about these dogs. That's weird. I thought it was like a fruit or something, like a pomegranate. So, a Pomeranian. Okay.